Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. The United States launches military strikes against Houthi rebels, killing 31. Russia urges US to halt Yemen strikes. 33 killed as deadly tornadoes hit United States. Missouri, Texas among worst affected states. Prime Minister's podcast with AI researcher Lex Fridman to be aired today. Podcast covers diverse topics including Prime Minister's journey in public life. Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore a step closer to homecoming as NASA's SpaceX Crew Dragon successfully docks at International Space Station. United States has launched large-scale airstrikes against Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels on Saturday, targeting their attack on Red Sea shipping. And in fact, the strikes, which killed at least 31 people, marks the largest U.S. military operation in the Middle East since Trump took office. More in this report.
United States launched military strikes against Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis on Saturday over the group's attacks against Red Sea shipping, warning hell will rain down upon you if the Houthis do not abandon their campaign. Video shared by the US Central Command on Saturday shows a ship firing missiles and a strike on a ground building seen from above. Trump in Truth Social post wrote, "Today I have ordered the United States military to launch decisive and powerful military action against the Houthi terrorists in Yemen. They have waged an unrelenting campaign of piracy, violence and terrorism against American and other ships, aircraft and drones. To all Houthi terrorists, your time is up and your attacks must stop starting today. If they don't, hell will rain down upon you like nothing you have ever seen before." It was the first such strikes against the group since President Donald Trump took office in January. Trump in his post also warned Iran, asking it to stop backing Houthis. Trump wrote to Iran, "Support for the Houthi terrorists must end immediately. Do not threaten the American people, their president, who has received one of the largest mandates in presidential history, or worldwide shipping lanes. If you do, beware, because America will hold you fully accountable and we won't be nice about it." In response, a Revolutionary Guard commander says Iran will stand firm against any threats. The Houthis began attacking ships near the Red Sea in late 2023, after a period of relative calm coinciding with a ceasefire in Gaza in January. Houthis announced on Tuesday that they will attack any Israeli ship that violates the group's ban on Israeli ships passing through the Red and Arabian Seas, the Bab al-Mandab Strait and the Gulf of Aden. Fuzail Ahmed reports for DD India.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov engaged in a phone call focusing on the next phase of negotiations to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict, according to State Department spokeswoman. In fact, Tammy Bruce, the diplomats concurred on continuing efforts to restore U.S.-Russia communication. Rubio briefed Lavrov on recent U.S. military operations in the West Asia, including airstrikes against Houthi rebel targets in Yemen. Russian Foreign Ministry said, in response to the American representative's arguments, Sergei Lavrov stressed the need for an immediate cessation of the use of force and the importance of all sides to engage in political dialogue in order to find a solution that would prevent further bloodshed. Notwithstanding tensions between President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Kyiv has agreed in principle to a 30-day unconditional ceasefire contingent upon Moscow ceasing its attacks in eastern Ukraine. However, Russian President Vladimir Putin has declined to accept the truce, instead posting conditions that exceed the terms of US-Ukraine agreement. The next round of US-Russia talks, facilitated by Saudi Arabia, is anticipated, although a specific timeline remains unclear. Russia and Ukraine exchanged aerial attacks on Sunday, resulting in injuries and damage as a proposed 30-day ceasefire hangs in balance. Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed support for the ceasefire, but stipulated that his forces would continue fighting until certain conditions are met. The conflict escalated, with Ukraine launching drone attacks on Russian border region of Belgorod, injuring 3 people, including a 7-year-old. Russian air defense units retaliated, destroying over 15 Ukrainian drones in the Voronezh region. Ukraine reported several Russian drone strikes, including one that sparked a blaze in a high-rise building in the Chernihiv region. Explosions were also reported in the Kyiv region, prompting Ukraine's Air Force to issue warnings of potential drone attacks. The ongoing violence underscores the uncertainty surrounding the proposed ceasefire as both sides continue to trade blows. The international community remains concerned about the escalating conflict, with diplomatic efforts ongoing to broker a peaceful resolution. March 16 marks the anniversary of the 2014 Crimean referendum, a vote that sparked international controversy and reshaped geopolitics. The referendum, held under Russian control, saw a majority of Crimean voters choose to join Russia, a move widely condemned by Ukraine and the West as illegal. Russia, however, considers it as a legitimate expression of the people's will. As the region marks another year since the vote, tensions remain high. DD India correspondent Anil Thomas gets us the details.
The referendum held on 16th of March 2014 saw Crimean officials report that over 96% of voters supported joining Russia. Days later, President Vladimir Putin signed a treaty formally annexing the region. However, Ukraine, the European Union and United States dismissed the vote as illegitimate, citing the presence of Russian troops and a lack of independent oversight. Each year, Russia commemorates the event with parades and speeches, while Ukrainian and Western countries impose sanctions. Meanwhile, ordinary Crimeans remain divided, some enjoying improved pensions and infrastructure under Russia, while others report crackdowns on dissent and restrictions on freedoms. As tensions between Russia and Ukraine continue, the status of Crimea remains a key point of contention on the global stage. Although Crimea is still governed by Russia, the political struggle for its status is far from done. One of the most divisive geopolitical conflicts of the 21st century is still the Crimea problem. The future of the region is still unclear despite ongoing diplomatic attempts. Bureau Report, DD India.
More than tens of thousands of protesters descended on Serbia's capital, Belgrade, on Saturday, marking one of the largest rallies in decades. Serbia has seen months of anti-government rallies after 15 people died from a railway station roof collapse, triggered accusations of widespread corruption and negligence. Streets were choked as protesters kept up a festive mood, lighting fairs and chanting their slogan, "Pump it up." The protesters are demanding the release of documents about last year's railway station disaster in the city of Novi Sad and accountability for those responsible. Many had travelled hundreds of miles on foot or by bike. The government denies accusations of graft and incompetence and said that Western intelligence agencies are backing a push to destabilize Serbia. Havana on Saturday remained mostly without power as night fell due to a collapse on Cuba's electric grid the night before. Cuba's power grid collapse has left over 10 million people without electricity, with Havana being the most affected. The grid failed on March 14 after a transmission line in Havana triggered a chain reaction, shutting down power generation across the island. The situation is dire, with only a few buildings like hotels, government offices and the US Embassy having power. The streets are mostly lit by headlights of passing cars. Officials have started the process of restarting the country's old generation plants, but there is no timeline for restoring power yet. Deadly tornadoes ripped through several southeastern states of US, leaving at least 33 people dead and many injured. The tornadoes ravaged several southeastern states, including Missouri, Arkansas and Texas. Unfavorable weather destroyed homes, overturned large trucks and downed trees and power lines. The tornado was part of a severe weather outbreak moving east across the southeastern United States. Severe weather has caused significant damage across the region. The destruction has displaced residents. Emergency services and rescue efforts are underway. Forecasters warned of more tornadoes to come over the weekend, targeting Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi and Tennessee. The deadly tornadoes have left many residents in shock, struggling the torrential weather.
Got a total loss on our canopy. We've lost our compressor units to our coolers. We had several vehicles, tractor trailers that were damaged, our roof, the roof to our storage building. Trying to think of what, there's just so much. We've lost all of our food, all of the stuff that's in the freezers and refrigerators, everything in our cooler with the compressor going out. So the food's a pretty big, I mean, this is all a big loss. We've lost all of our pumps. They were pulled out of the ground.
I had a lot of debris that was on the side of the truck and just around the truck area, whatever. And me and the other truck drivers, we came together and we, moved all the debris from in front of the trucks and everything like that.
And in a key milestone, NASA's SpaceX Crew Dragon successfully docked at the International Space Station early on Sunday in a crew swap mission that will allow two stranded astronauts, Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore, to return home after 9 months on the orbiting lab. More in this report.
After 9 months of being stuck on the International Space Station, US astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore are a step closer to returning home. As NASA's SpaceX Crew Dragon successfully docked with the International Space Station carrying a 4-member team, paving the way for the return of two stranded astronauts. The Crew Dragon astronauts were warmly welcomed by their counterparts on the space station with emotional hugs and handshakes.
Crew 10 has had a great journey up here, about 28 hours to get back up to the space station, and I cannot tell you the immense joy of our crew when we looked out the window and we saw the space station for the first time. Returning for a couple of people, very first time for a couple of people. And let me tell you, that is such an amazing journey.
We are so excited to now be officially part of the Expedition 72. Thank you guys.
And Houston, thank you for tuning in this early morning. It was a wonderful day. Great to see our friends arrive. So thank you so much.
The 4-member mission called Crew 10 comprises 2 Americans, a Russian and a Japanese who will replace Williams and Wilmore on the ISS. But the duo can only prepare for return once Crew 10 gets adjusted to ISS conditions, which could take a few days. They can then return to Earth in a capsule that has been attached to the station since September as part of the prior Crew 9 mission. Williams and Wilmore reached the ISS in June 2024 for a mission which was originally expected to last for a week. But NASA deemed it too risky for the astronauts to return on Boeing Starliner over propulsion system related issues. The mission to bring them back was later given to Elon Musk's SpaceX, but the launch was delayed due to some technical problems and change in weather. The issue also took a political turn as Musk, a close ally of US President Donald Trump, claimed lapses on part of the previous administration led by Joe Biden. NASA has said that Williams and Wilmore have been carrying out scientific research and conducting routine maintenance and have remained safe. The duo's plight highlights risks of human spaceflight. It has also come as a major setback for Boeing's space venture. Bureau Report, TD India.
US President Trump's directives have led to the placement of over 1,300 Voice of America employees on leave and the termination of funding for Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty and Radio Free Asia. Voice of America's director, Michael Abramowitz, expressed sadness, stating the organization has played a crucial role in promoting freedom and democracy worldwide. The U.S. Agency for Global Media, Voice of America's parent agency, employs around 3,500 workers with $886 million budget. Trump's order also targeted 6 other federal agencies, aiming to reduce their operations to the minimum required by law. The move has been criticized by free press advocates, with the National Press Club and Reporters Without Borders condemning the cuts. The funding termination affects Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, which broadcasts to Eastern Europe, and Radio Free Asia, which broadcasts to China and North Korea. The move has sparked concerns about the impact on press freedom worldwide. And let's see what's happening in the world. A Peruvian fisherman survived 95 days lost in the Pacific Ocean, returns home. Maximo Napa had set off for a fishing trip from Marcona, a town on the southern Peruvian coast, on December 7. He packed food for a 2-week trip, but 10 days in stormy weather threw his boat off course and he ended up adrift in the Pacific Ocean. His family launched a search, but Peru's maritime patrols were unable to locate him until Wednesday, when an Ecuadorian fishing patrol discovered him some 1,094 kilometers off the country's coast. Tiangong Ultra, an upgraded version of the humanoid robot, is currently undergoing tests in preparation for a half marathon next month in Beijing. The race, set for April 13, will feature both robotic and human athletes competing on the same route but on separate tracks to ensure safety for all participants. The upcoming half marathon will be an exciting test of Tiangong's Ultra capabilities, and it will be interesting to see how it performs alongside human athletes. An oil spill in northwestern Ecuador has turned a river black, prompting authorities to declare an environmental emergency amid unprecedented damage and to order residents to ration drinking water. The spill, believed caused when a landslide ruptured a major oil pipeline, has turned waters black in a section of the Esmeraldas River. Authorities are working to contain the spill and prevent further environmental damage. Bangui, the capital of the Central African Republic, has been suffering from an electricity blackout for several days now, coupled with water shortages, forcing some residents to wait several hours to fetch water. The effects of these shortages are far-reaching, impacting not only daily life but also health and safety. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Hundreds protest outside planned site of Chinese embassy in London. World leaders begin arriving in New Delhi for Raisina dialogue. River dyed green for St. Patrick's Day in Midwest city of Chicago, Illinois.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium, we'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. And in North Macedonia, at least 50 people are feared dead after a fire broke out at a nightclub where more than 1,000 people had gathered for a concert. State news agency, citing the Interior Ministry, said at least 50 people died in a discotheque in Kochani, where around 1,500 people attended a concert. The agency reported that the fire broke out in Pulse, a nightclub in the small town with around 30,000 inhabitants during a concert by DNK, a hip-hop duo popular in the country. The concert that started at midnight on Sunday was attended mainly by young people, with local media speculating that the cause of the fire was probably the use of pyrotechnic devices. And hundreds of demonstrators protest at a site earmarked for Beijing's controversial new embassy in London, Royal Mint Court, a listed building which the Chinese government owns and plans to convert into a new mega embassy, would become the largest embassy in Europe if approved. Protester and Uyghur activist Rahima Mahmat said that this huge embassy will enable China to do their repression outside of their country.
It will be a hub for transnational repression. It will make extremely unsafe for the activists like myself. We Uyghurs been oppressed not only inside the Uyghur region, the East Turkestan, but also outside China. And having this huge embassy, it will enable China to do their transnational repression, to make it impossible for our safety to be guaranteed in this country. And we know this place is not going to be a place for diplomacy, it's a place for spying.
Their embassy service goes beyond just diplomacy, but also they conduct transnational repression and intelligence services. So there's not possible to, to have an authoritarian regime to have the largest embassy in the UK.
He is conducting a campaign of transnational repression that directly threatens our freedoms and security in this country. So it seems crazy to be giving them this huge new embassy. And of course, the Chinese Communist Party is also complicit in not only repression within China, the genocide of the Uyghurs, the crackdown on Hong Kong, atrocities in Tibet, but also facilitating Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine, atrocities in Myanmar, North Korea. So China is not a friend, it's a threat to our freedoms and our security, and we shouldn't be giving them this embassy.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently had an engaging and thought-provoking conversation with renowned podcaster and AI researcher Lex Fridman. The discussion, lasting 3 hours, covering diverse topics including Prime Minister Modi's childhood, his formative years spent in the Himalayas, and his journey in public life. This much-anticipated 3-hour podcast with renowned AI researcher and podcaster Lex Fridman is set to be aired on Sunday. Lex Fridman described the conversation as one of the most powerful conversations of his life. Responding to the X post of Lex Fridman about the upcoming podcast, PM Modi wrote on X, and I quote, "It was indeed a fascinating conversation with Lex Fridman, covering diverse topics including reminiscing about my childhood, the years in the Himalayas, and the journey in public life. Do tune in and be a part of this dialogue." New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon is set to arrive in India on Sunday at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This marks Luxon's first visit to India in his current capacity, and he will be accompanied by a high-level delegation comprising ministers, officials, business leaders, media, and members of the Indian diaspora community in New Zealand. During his visit, Luxon will engage in talks with PM Modi on March 17, covering various aspects of India-New Zealand relations. PM Modi will host a lunch in Luxon's honour, and the New Zealand Prime Minister is also scheduled to call on Indian President Draupadi Murmu. The visit aims to strengthen bilateral ties between India and New Zealand across all sectors and deepen people-to-people connections. He will also visit Mumbai, where he will interact with Indian business leaders and representatives from various walks of life. Luxon will be the chief guest at the 10th Raisina Dialogue 2025 in New Delhi, delivering the keynote address. And Eduardo Martinez Diaz, the Deputy Prime Minister of Cuba, has also arrived in India for the Raisina Dialogue. India's Ministry of External Affairs is hosting the 10th edition of Raisina Dialogue. This year's theme is Kalachakra, People, Peace, Planet. Minister for Foreign Affairs of Ghana, Samuel Okud-Zeto Ablakwa, has also arrived in India for Raisina Dialogue. Raisina Dialogue is India's premier conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics, committed to addressing the most challenging issues facing the global community. And India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati received the Jamal-Lal Sharma Award for invaluable contribution at the Hockey India Annual Awards 2024 in New Delhi on Saturday. Prasar Bharati Board Chairman Navneet Kumar Sehgal received the award at the ceremony. Union Minister for Parliamentary Affairs Kiran Rijiju and Hockey India President Dilip Tirki were also present at the ceremony. Notably, Prasar Bharati has been playing a crucial role in growing and promoting hockey in India and inspiring future generations. The chairman also pitched in to promote hockey through its OTT platform, Waves.
Prasar Bharati, we tried to make hockey reach every nook and corner of this country. You know, as Mr. Jitin Prasad was saying, there is a need for a Grameen hockey league. And we at Prasar Bharati, through Doordarshan and our new OTT network, that is Waves, platform Waves, we are trying to make hockey reach every nook and corner of the country to, encourage not only the players, but also give them honor and respect that they deserve.
Chicago's beloved St. Patrick's Day tradition unfolded once again on Saturday as thousands converged downtown to witness the majestic Chicago River transform into a dazzling green hue. This enduring spectacle, now over 60 years young, is lovingly orchestrated by the Chicago Journeyman Plumbers Local Union 130. With great fanfare, 40 pounds of environmentally friendly vegetable-based dye are poured into quarter-mile stretch of the river, yielding a resplendent emerald green color. The union assures that the orange-red powder is non-toxic and harmless to wildlife, making this festive tradition a guilt-free delight. As the river remains green for several hours, the city revels in the joy and magic of this iconic celebration. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.